For you, what comes first? Is it the visuals and then the music? Is it vice versa? Or is it like random moments of inspiration?
Is now the algorithm determining how we approach art? I know a lot of like people that are more old school in their thinking, and they'll be like, oh, back in my days music videos were the thing, and then back in my days we used to only spin vinyl, and back in my days it's always like, man, shut the fuck up. No one wants to hear that shit. A lot of highly creative artists are falling into the trap of becoming content creators, and I'm like, that's so unfortunate, because you have all these wild ideas, but you're limiting yourself because the algorithm won't reward you. What the most I probably blew on a video was probably like 50K or something. And this is a whole nother conversation, but the ROI of music videos and the medium of music videos is, slowly dying. What is the incentive for artists to continue to make music videos? I'm not exaggerating. This is one of the worst videos I have ever seen in my life. Like, not even my worst video. This is hands down one of the worst pieces of visuals. And I'm like, oh my God. For me, it's always been world building, So I'm like, what is this world that I'm introducing to the audience? What does that sound like? What does that look like? What does that feel like? The one thing I always ask myself as an artist is, what am I contributing? Break all the rules you can, have fun with it. That's how I approach my art. And for me, it's paid off.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the next episode of Beyond the Cut. And this one is with SVDP. He is an artist, a world builder, director, a whole bunch of stuff. And we got to talking about how he builds out these experiences for his audience, which was one of the dopest conversations I've had so far. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys enjoy his stuff, please follow him, and support his work. So let's get into it. For you, what comes first? Is it the visuals and then the music? Is it vice versa? Or is it like random moments of inspiration?
I think it varies song to song, but for me, I've never made that separation between the music and the visuals. So it's never been like I make an incredible record. Well, sometimes it is. Like, I'll make something and then be like, what's the visual for it? But sometimes it could also be I have a visual idea and just don't have the music for it yet. And I just got to keep working on records and then be like, boom, this is the one that'll work with the visual idea I had. For me, it's always been world building, So I'm like, what is this world that I'm introducing to the audience? What does that sound like? What does that look like? What does that feel like? It's considering all components of that world. But yeah, I've always been inspired by people like, like David Bowie and Kanye and Tyler, world creators, people that are building worlds. So you might be familiar with your music, but you also know that their fit is going to be something crazy. You also know that their, visual stage production is going to be something crazy. So it's like, that you're entering this world of, say, Kanye or David Bowie or like FKA, these artists that are just creating these experiences. Those are the type of artists that I've always looked up to, especially an artist like, Bjork. I've always looked up to her production, her songs, and then you go to her show and then it's something so immersive and something you've never seen any other artist do. And that world is very specific to Bjork. And that's what I'm trying to create, is this world that's very specific to me, and you can identify that with what I'm creating.
You talk about it actually in one of your latest posts, like getting into the directing and world building for Black, and how you're really practicing that craft. For people that don't understand what world building is that more of your whole overall brand? Like, you are creating this brand, what people could really attach to? Or is it on a case by case basis in terms of like certain music videos and certain projects that you do, certain albums even?
No, I think it would be like the overall experience of it. I think the word brand, I guess you could use the word brand when it comes to like selling something. For me, I like to look at it as an experience. What do they experience? What do I want the audience to experience? when I'm presenting this piece of work. The one thing I always ask myself as an artist is, what am I contributing? What is the thing that I'm contributing to the art form, especially say within hip hop culture? When you first start getting into like music, the first thing you do is you mimic artists that you looked up to. But then, especially within hip hop culture, I'm a South Asian artist participating in this space. So at first it's cool. I could mimic my favorite artist, but then eventually you hit a ceiling and be like, okay, what is it that you contribute to this culture? And I try to always start with that question, is like, what am I contributing with this, whatever it may be, whether it's a video or a song or an album. It's like, what is my contribution to this?
Has the thought of just giving people an experience always been with you ever since you started? Because I've watched some of your older music videos, Water, Water, Money, Power. Even like, I think that's like the earliest music video on your channel.
Yeah, that
And even like the set design, the concept, it was 8 years ago, but the experience always feels like it feels like it could live today and people wouldn't know.
I've always been like a visual artist. That was one of those instances where I had this idea and I'm just like, this is going to be so difficult to execute. I can't afford to make this, but it just kept haunting me. I'm just like, why? And I'm like, unless I finish it, I'm just going to keep thinking of this idea. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And it was hell to do. I had to like drown and essentially like waterboard myself. I can't swim. I have a fear of like large bodies of water, and I'm getting drowned in this video. Like I barely was surviving off music then. And I'm just blowing like 10K on a video that would not generate any money. And for me, I'm like, you know what? I have to do this for the sake of this idea that's going to haunt me.
Your mental, for sure, right?
Yeah. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm glad I did it, but it wasn't a fun process.
The budget, you just said 10K. And I feel like the budgets back then doing music videos to like what people are doing now, especially in terms of the equipment that you have, obviously AI, graphic design and things like that. How has that changed for you? Like seeing and when I was looking at the production, like you had a lot of set design, wardrobe, first AD,
Yeah.
and then I'm assuming later on the crew's getting smaller and smaller because you're starting to do a lot
That's
more,
right.
or the homies are like, yo, I could run a camera real quick, or I have clothes for you that, you know what I mean?
That's right.
So like, how has that changed? Because you've probably seen it, to answering all these people and all these people on set, to now it's like maybe a crew of like 4 people or whatever.
That's interesting because, well, one, I think that just varies on the scope of the budget you're given. But you're right. Like the crews have been getting smaller and smaller, and I could do most of the stuff myself. I also enjoy doing most of the stuff myself because like we have so many resources now, especially with, AI, the new technology. We have so much software accessible to us. But for me, when I spend the most I probably blew on a video was probably like 50K or something. And the video did well, but then I might blow like 30K on a video and it does nothing. And then I'm like, well, this is a whole nother conversation, but the ROI of music videos, right?
Ooh,
You think
yeah.
about, well, they're not what they used to be, right? Music videos used to be on TV, and it used to be like the primary way of how an artist would express themselves visually or let the audience know what their brand is. And now I feel like a lot of artists are straying away from music videos because it's just financially not worth it, right? Even Black is a perfect example, to be honest. I spent like 3 months editing that video frame by frame, and you can tell like it's very tedious work. And even like say a 1 second of like this AI generated thing, I might have generated like 500 images and took like 7 hours just to pick one image of those iterations. And then, I put it out, and numbers wise is, to me, I'm like, damn, this is probably some of the lowest numbers I have ever seen for a music video that I've put out. And then at the same time, I could do a freestyle, which would take me maybe 20 minutes to write, another like an hour to like film. Total, it would take me like, say, like 4 or 5 hours. And that freestyle with my phone would generate, say, 4 or 5 million. So then as an artist, you have to think about, well, what is the incentive now? And it goes to show, like, if artists can get the same reach they can by just doing short form content versus when they put a huge budget behind a music video, and the music video is not guaranteed to do that, and the medium of music videos is, you know, slowly dying. What is the incentive for artists to continue to make music videos? And when Black dropped, I was proud of it, but I would say commercially it didn't do what I thought it would do. So then I go into this dark hole of like, damn, I'm like, I got to like reconsider, you know, how I approach this. And it's not to say that I'm not proud of the work. It kind of made me question two things of like where we are in the state of culture, right? So what you're doing, I think, is important because you're taking these videos that may not do well based on the algorithm, but you see the artistic value in it, and then you break it down and then you introduce it to an audience. And I guarantee you sometimes your breakdown of the video generates more views than the video gets itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then that is like, that's interesting to me because is now the algorithm determining how we approach art? Because even when I was making Black, I'm like, I know this is not friendly towards socials because one, it's dark. The song itself is dark. It's aggressive. There's cursing. The video has flashes. It has scenes that can be taken as nudity, but it's not. It's just like skin. But you know, the algorithm, anytime anything remotely looks like skin, it'll flag it. So it had everything that is like anti-algorithm, and I knew that going in. But then I'm like, well, is this going to deter artists from making a certain type of art? And is now the algorithm kind of like outlining to artists, hey, do this and you'll become successful on these platforms? So it makes me question, like, is this going to change how we approach art? You know?
Yeah.
And that's another conversation, but I'm like, I started having that conversation in my head. I'm like, for me, I just got to do ideas that I got to get out no matter what. And, you know, whether it does well commercially, I'm not thinking about that when I'm making it. I'm only thinking about that after I make it and how to market it afterwards.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of artists is like, you know, content creation and art. How do we balance that?
It's like, are you making it for the algorithm or are you making it for the art? And that's
exactly,
now that social media has kind of exploded, it's like there's a blurred line between those two, right?
I wasn't so much deterred from the numbers. For me, I'm like, I always like to be connected to the audience. So anytime like something doesn't do well for me, it's not that I question myself as an artist. It's just like, okay, did I connect this time and why didn't I connect, you know? And there's so many different factors and timing and how we're releasing it and all these different things. But I think that's always priority for me, is to be able to connect with my audience, you know? And yeah, and inspiring other artists to just push themselves and try new things, you know?
That's crazy. It's now we're getting into this whole like social media age, but because you've been doing it for so long, even before short form content blew up, how's that changed your visuals and how you approach projects now? Are you writing a song and trying to be like, okay, maybe this one doesn't get a full on music video, maybe we just have a couple short form pieces for it? Has that changed? Because you've seen both sides. You've seen,
Yeah, absolutely. You know? I personally love like the short form content. I love making like just short pieces of art that don't need a huge budget and that I can execute myself. And it's almost like a challenge to me. For me, I always love adapting to like new mediums, new ways in which we consume art. I know a lot of like people that are more old school in their thinking, and they'll be like, oh, back in my days, music videos were the thing. And then back in my days, we used to only spin vinyl. And back in my days, it's always like, man, shut the fuck up. Like, like no one wants to hear that shit. Just like, for me, I'm like, yo, you know what? For me, I always look at it as a challenge to adapt to how we are moving as a culture. I feel like a lot of artists, like a lot of highly creative artists, are falling into the trap of becoming content creators. And I'm like, that's so unfortunate, because you have all these wild ideas, but you're limiting yourself because the algorithm won't reward you for these ideas. So instead, you're now just filming these insanely boring concepts in front of like a park or like a train tracks or some shit. I'm like, well, everyone is doing this. Like your whole job as an artist is to be creative and to present, these new ideas to the audience. But now you're a content creator. You're doing the same thing that someone who's selling fucking a liquor brand or makeup or doing something, and you're falling for that trap. And I feel like we have to stop working for these companies. Essentially, that's what content creation is that you're essentially just working for Instagram or TikTok.
Yeah.
And they're just mining your audience. And I feel like, if you can game it somehow in your favor, sure. As a creative, as an artist, for me, I'm just like, we still have to push the boundaries of like, what does this look like artistically? How can we move forward artistically and do cool shit?
It's the quality over quantity, right? Having one piece that you work on for so long, outing it, and then whatever. I think that's where a lot of artists fall into that trap too, is because that whole thing, if let's say you work on 4 months on a music video, doesn't do well, not a lot of people get butthurt over that, right? And they're like, okay, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to feel that again. So when you make quantity, that feeling you could get over the next time you post, because it doesn't even matter, right? But it's like then at that point you're coming out with 100 pieces in 4 months, but where's the art, right?
Exactly. The best way that I would describe content creation is it feels like a bunch of flyers being thrown at you, because content always leads to something else. Content, right? So say an artist puts out a piece of content for their song, and they'll be like, click on the link and then go listen to the song on Spotify. A makeup artist is like, I did this makeup, here's the brands that I used, go click the link. So everything is a flyer. They're like, whereas art could exist by itself. You can experience that piece of art. And when I'm making quote unquote content, I always try to make something where you don't need to listen to the whole song if you don't want to. You can experience this by itself, and you can come back in 10 years, in 15 years, and still experience this as a piece of art, right? Whereas content is dated pretty much in the week or the day that it's released. Imagine walking down the street, down the block, and you get 100 flyers thrown at you. I'm like
Vegas, when they're just
exactly, just flyer after flyer. That's what it's scrolling feels like. I'm just scrolling through a whole bunch of flyers. Whereas when someone makes a visually striking piece of art, it stands out. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is a piece of art that I can come back to. So that's what I'm always trying to do, is I'm trying to create these pieces of art that have some longevity, that I can be proud of in 15 years time and come back and be like, oh yeah, this still holds.
I wanted to talk about the 90s because it's so interesting that, and I even remember texting you. I'm like, yo, your videos, the way you put out videos, the quality and stuff, the music reminds me of that. How much has that influenced the visuals? Because the visuals especially, and like I was watching some of your older videos, like Bitch Go, and I was like, this feels so 90s. Like I'm like the wardrobe and everything. Like how has that affected the visuals?
Man, I just like, I came up off like watching Missy videos.
Oh, come on. What's your favorite Missy video? What's your
my God.
Busta had some good music videos too.
Oh, Busta I mean, the whole Hype Williams run was incredible.
Legendary.
Like,
legendary shit.
Well, actually, Black was inspired by the Victory video, the bit Puffy and
dude, that's
Biggie.
My favorite. Like every time I work out, that's got to be the number one track.
So the gargoyle scene is straight up.
Yeah, now that you mentioned it,
Busta
and on the
Rhymes.
building and stuff.
Yeah. So that's the. I'm like, yo, I've always wanted to recreate that. And then there's also homage to Redman's cover for Backwash's verse, the There's a Dark Side cover.
Yeah.
Which he did an homage to the Funkadelic. I just try to keep that homage going with that. But yeah, that was a huge influence, man, because I felt like, well, one, they were blowing like $500,000 on videos back then, so they had to look good.
They had to, and they don't do that anymore, except for. Have you ever watched one of those K-pop music videos? Because they spend, and I appreciate that. Like I appreciate the art of that and like what they do to set. But
they're still, and you still see it, like I guess Megan Thee Stallion, you can still see like a high production value in her work, and even Kendrick Lamar, what PG Lang is doing. I'm like, I love the art of this. There's still people that are still interested in the art of visuals. I mean, Tyler, everything Tyler puts out, I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. Childish Gambino, what he does with the visuals, it's always been inspiring. So I think
Yeah.
it's still carried over. I just don't think labels are investing as much into the visuals because they're just focused on TikToks. So I think it's more so, you know,
Yeah.
certain artists that are still carrying that.
You think it's because it's more of an auditory thing? Like they're just trying to get album sales as opposed to like, yeah, music video might not bring it in, but now labels are in that quantity game.
Yep,
Make TikToks,
absolutely.
bro.
Yeah.
Jump on, do
Ex-
a couple dances, like get this
Yeah,
audio trending.
exactly. I mean, if a label could save $200,000, they're gonna want to do that. You know, they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
just make a TikTok. You don't need a $200,000 video. You know,
Yeah.
so because at the end of the day, like the ROI for video is almost non-existent. You're not going to make back that money. You know, it's essentially just making like a calling card for the song, but it just has to come with just pure love for the visual. And I think the strength of music videos right now may not be in promoting the song necessarily, but I think there is still value in introducing the audience to your world. Who are you? Because when you're scrolling on socials, you might not necessarily get an understanding of like, okay, well, I've seen clips of this person, but I still don't understand their world. Whereas if you watch a full music video, you're like, oh, okay, I get the world that I'm entering now. So I think it's still good for that. Maybe there's still something that could bring back that long form content, or we're just down this rabbit hole of just short form content. You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm not sure what it looks like.
It's such a weird idea and concept, only because I'm thinking, with these K-pop groups, I feel like they still have that essence of the visuals. Like people are waiting for these music videos to come out.
Yeah.
Like I want to react to this music video, and
Yep.
it's like, how did they capture that? Like, is
Well,
it the fandom of like, why is it so crazy?
yeah. Well, that's the same thing in India, man. The independent scene kind of only started recently, but you know, for the history of India, music has always been associated with cinema. So they go
Mm,
hand in hand, right? So I think the thing that India still loves music videos and visuals is they still love cinema. You know, they still love the cinema of visuals.
interesting.
That's
Interesting.
so that like as much as reels and short form content is still popping off there, they still look forward to videos because it's still associated with the cinematic aspect of it. And I love that. I love that,
Yeah.
the fact that they still respect it. I think it's more so, yeah, like a Western thing because MTV doesn't play music videos anymore. There's no, so what is the association for long form content? There is none,
Mm.
right? Whereas India and even I'm sure they're
K
still playing.
dramas, they do K
Yeah,
drama,
exactly.
right? Now that you talk about it,
Exactly.
I'm like, yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, so they still have that culture where we don't have that culture at all anymore. You could walk into any like, you know, restaurant and they might be playing a music video. Like you'll never see that anymore.
Yeah.
Right? They're not playing music videos anymore. So, I don't know. I think it's a cultural thing as well, which is interesting that there's some countries that are still very much in love with that long form content.
Man, what do you think it'll take to bring it back? You think we could ever get back to there, or you think we're just
Ah,
too far gone?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's another way of introducing it, but I don't think we'll move backwards because I don't watch TV personally. So,
Mm.
but I feel like, you know, MTV culture has just moved on to like, it seems very like junky, you know, it's just
Yeah,
quick fixes.
just in your face,
Yeah, just
bop, bop, bop,
flashes. And I'm
bop.
just like, yeah. So, and reality television, I think reality television has been like kind of crushed everything else
It's a
out the water.
catalyst. Yeah, man.
Yeah, that I'm just like, well, people just want to see reality television. No one wants to watch music videos and wants to watch sitcoms. It's just like, hey, just reality television shows, and it's just straight up junk, man. It's just yeah,
And we just like we eat it up, like
eat it
we
up
eat
in
it
the
up.
West.
You've directed a lot of your stuff, even dating back to some of your earlier music videos. Has that always been by choice, or was it like, I've had friends in music, and it's just like there's no one else to direct my shit.
Yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
I'm out here like, all right, well, let me see what it looks like. All right, I'm just do this. Was that how it went?
Yeah, no, it wasn't like that wasn't my intent because I always looked at directing as like a daunting thing. When I see directing, I'm like, oh man, you had to go to like film school and director. That's an important task. I was part of a duo with my best friend way back, and we had hired this production company to do a video for us, and they had like professional cameras. We're like, oh snap. I'm like, let's go, like our first video. And we're both working day jobs. And I think we put up, I think it wasn't even that expensive. It might've been like 7K or some shit. And then they showed us a video, and dog, I'm not exaggerating. This is one of the worst videos I have ever seen in my life. Like, not even my worst video. This is hands down one of the worst pieces of visuals. And I'm like, oh my God.
I gotta put it up.
Yo, nah. I took that shit down immediately. But for me, I'm like, then it made me question. I'm like, yo, if this looks like shit and I paid someone, I could just do this myself. And I'm like, if it looks like shit, at least I saved $7,000. So that was the catalyst for me to be like, you know what? Let me just take a hand at this and do this. And now I would encourage all artists to try directing and building your own world, because I feel like even if you don't technically execute it, the way you want to, I think there's an authenticity with your audience that they can see the world that you're building, and the fact that it came from you, they connect with that more. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as it's authentic and it's coming from your world, I think the audience will connect with it. And some people just don't even care for that. So it's fine. Hire a director. The other thing is, a director is essentially just someone that's delegating work. People look at directing as, for me, like technically a director doesn't have to touch anything. Like they can get an editor, they can get a cinematographer, they can get wardrobe. So essentially you just have to have a vision and then tell people how to execute this vision, and then you put it together. I like to be more hands-on with what I'm doing, but like, for anyone new coming into this game, I'm like, just try your hand at directing, because you never know, that might be something that might help you execute your vision more authentically. And it's just about, you don't need a lot. You can just have one camera person and try editing yourself. Yeah, that's really all you need, and start small.
I feel like that the directors, it's the communication between the vision and how you want it, and then having that to communicate that to your crew. And there's a lot of communication that needs and breaking down.
I think that's the part that takes work, because essentially a lot of work. So communication is essentially the director's strongest skill set I think you could have. Gudgeon Balin, he's like my cinematographer, and
I love that you guys work together. That's like one of the questions.
So like we're like this, and I think when we first started working, because Gudgeon is a type of person that he's very like planned and organized and likes to know exactly what's gonna happen. And me, I'm just like, yo, I got here's one screenshot of inspiration. I kind of want it to look like this. Let's go see what it looks like when we get there. And I'm always just rolling with the punches, get as much footage, and then I'm like, let me just see what I can do with it. And then we kind of build this workflow where I'm just like, yo, let's just trust the process and have fun with it. Some people love to storyboard every single shot.
He's probably like there. He's like, yo, I got to check this out. I got all this. You got, what I mean? Wide shot, medium shot, close up. You're like,
yo. And for me, I'm just like, yo, let's just have fun, see what we get. But the thing is, musically and visually, I don't know anything. Like I am not particularly good at anything, and I don't know anything. I haven't been trained for anything. I can't play an instrument. I couldn't tell you what a note is. I don't know color theory, because technically I have zero idea what I'm doing. And the way that I always approach my art is with this like childhood imagination. And I like approaching art like that. I like approaching art with this, there's no rules to this. And if it feels good to me, then it feels good. And keep in mind, I've been doing this long enough where I know when something doesn't sound right or look right.
Yeah. You just know it's off to you, and you're like,
exactly. I just acknowledged my brain works a certain way. And even in music, I've never had like the mathematical brain for music, but I've always had the emotional brain, and I know what works emotionally and how an audience connects. So I know that's my strong suit. And that's why, when I work with my producers, they are like nerds in terms of like music theory. And even Gudgeon, he's a super nerd in terms of like visuals. Yeah, visuals. So I can tell him, I'm like, hey, this is the type of visual I want. He's like, okay, I know the exact lens we need for that.
I need the
And
lighting. I know the way it looks, and then like he'll
exactly,
do it. He'll show you, and you're like, no, this looks like a little off. I need this to be lit. And he's like, okay, I got you. Boom, boom, boom.
exactly,
You need to. You
exactly,
need people like that though, especially when
always,
you know that your weaknesses needs to be filled, and if you can find
exactly.
that squad that helps you, it's like a
Yep.
perfect marriage.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely, man. I always say the strongest thing you could have as an artist is to know your weakness so that you know how you need to be supported. You don't know what you're not good at and you're letting your ego take over. And there has to be a trust, right? There always
Yeah,
needs to be a
yeah.
trust both ways. There needs to be a trust where I can trust this person to execute the vision and they trust that I have a vision.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, for real. Because if you don't, like, there's been artists who like don't have a vision. You're like, this is shit. What the fuck am I looking
Exactly.
at? Yeah,
Yeah. So if you have like a highly skilled like cinematographer and an artist that doesn't quite have a vision yet, the cinematographer is going to question it and then be like, well,
yeah,
you don't have it right. Whereas I think I would like to say that I build a track record enough where I'm like, just trust that I
absolutely.
know, that what I'm doing. And then fortunately, I'm blessed to have a team that trusts that vision.
Have you and Gudgeon fought? Have you guys fought on set or like bump
Uh,
ideas to the point where it's like,
Not really. We
wow,
don't. I think, we don't like, we fight outside of the set.
but never
But
about
no,
creative differences. Like,
yeah, but I think we both have a great understanding of just like just knowing how to articulate our ideas and just compromising, you know. But yeah, I think we both somehow the fact that you brought that up, I'm like, I can't think of a
yeah,
time where
that's
you
amazing.
both had. Yeah, no, we got a great collaborative relationship, man. Like, and I super appreciate even having him around. I'm like, and to be honest, is like sometimes it's not even about the finished product. We're just like two kids that just love doing this shit. My favorite things we ever done was in India. We were there in March. I just want to do this concept. I'm like, yo, let me be on the back of like a Harley and have someone riding it. I'm rapping in the back of a Harley and you follow me. And in my head, I'm not thinking about the technicals, right? I'm just like, that would be a dope shot. So we call our boy Ken, and Ken is the dude. And when we're in Chennai, he's like the dude. He's the plug.
The hook
So
up,
like,
the hook up.
I'm like, Ken, we need someone on a bike. We need like 4 bikers, me on the back. And I'm not thinking about safety or anything. He's like,
Got it.
got it. He'll call me back in 4 hours. Or he's like, I got you 4 bikers. I got you so-and-so. She's going to ride this Harley in a mini skirt. And I'm like, we're not thinking about, and the thing is, this is India, right? So if we were to do this shot in Toronto, we would need a permit. There's
yeah.
no way we can get on the highway without helmets,
Yeah.
without a
It'd
permit.
be instant
Like,
whoop whoop, and then you're like,
yeah, in 2 seconds there'd be a
Yeah.
cop. India, dog.
nah,
This
they're
was
with
one of
you.
the Gudgeon was on a little scooter. He was on a little scooter, like tucked in, following the bike. I was behind a Harley. My friend was on a riding the Harley. The Harley's like 3 times her size. She's in a mini skirt. There's no safety, and we're just like go, and we're just on the highway at like midnight. Oh, it was the funnest shit ever. I'm like, oh man, the adrenaline rush of this. And in my head, I'm not even thinking about how this is going to turn out. I'm just like, I'm
Enjoying
having
the
the time
moment.
of my life.
Enjoying the
Yeah.
moment.
And whatever we get, we'll make the best out of it. You know, I'm like, I think that's what makes our collaborative relationship with like, especially Gudgeon. He's just down for an adventure. We're like, let's just go on an adventure and shoot shit.
How important is it to keep that childlike wonder and have people around you to be down? Like, you remember when you're a kid and you're like, you go
Yeah.
outside, or like even the idea of like, remember going to your friend's house, you leave the bike on the lawn, you come out and you're like, yo, who the fuck took my bike? You know, like, you have to walk home and shit. Like that stuff, I feel like,
Yeah, hell
like
yeah.
having the essence of playing softball and like tag or manhunt, and
Yeah.
how important is that to keep that
Oh, man.
essence
That-
and
that-
finding the people? Like, how do you find people like that?
For me, that's almost been like my survival. That's all I had to hold on to because I didn't go to art school or was never trained in music. For me, the only thing I had was like, okay, let me preserve this imagination and approach this, and I know I'll find the right people along the way. But I think that's super important because as soon as you lose that imagination, then you start playing by the rules, and then you start making really boring shit. Like that's, you just start making art. Then I'm like, well, like AI can do this. Like this is not even fun anymore. I'm like, for me, I'm like, yeah, break all the rules you can, have fun with it. That's how I approach my art. And for me, it's paid off. But I think, yeah, that preserving that childhood wonder and imagination, that's super important to making exciting art.
I want to get into editing now. So we talked, artists, obviously dope artists, getting into directing, and for the Black music video, you edited it.
Yeah.
How is that for you? There's some people that enjoy editing, and there's some people
Yeah.
like, please get this shit off my computer right fucking now. How was that process for you? And did that open your eyes to other things where you're like, I didn't even think about this stuff. Now
Yeah.
that I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get this.
I think for me, because I'm so specific with my vision, I like to edit my own work. I love the creative component of editing and just looking for new ways to find just new interesting things that I can do. The thing about Black was the reason why it took as long as it did. What's interesting, and this is something I've experienced for the first time, is because this is the first video that I really wanted to dive into AI. And AI technology was moving so fast that when I thought that I had the video done, there would be some kind of new breakthrough with AI that I'd be like, oh, damn, okay, let me try this now. And while it was happening, I was also learning new programs and new platforms as they were being released. And, you're watching how fast this is moving. So every month there would be like an AI breakthrough. I edited that video literally 4 hours before it dropped. Like I was making new scenes for
Wow.
that. There was parts of it where I'm like, damn, this just dropped. Literally like on that day, I think Runway had dropped like their
A new,
imaged, a new
yeah.
thing. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, are you serious? So then I was just like up all night that night before cutting new scenes. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had another week for this. But then it's endless because AI is just constantly going. And I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. But that's the other reason why it took so long, because I was trying to keep up with the technology and just be adventurous with it. Some of the things that I was doing was just expanding the world that I was in. So I would shoot something and then I'm like, where do I want to be? And if I wanted to practically do that, that would have cost me like, imagine putting backwash on top of a building as a gargoyle. That would have cost me like $100,000. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, with AI, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I can place them in this world and do it in the comfort of my own computer,
Yeah, I love that about AI, and I get a lot of flack for it when I cover AI, like art or art,
Of
like
course,
art,
of course.
and I get it. There's like an ethics behind it, but for me, it was like more for the art and the tech. It's like if I needed to storyboard, like if how we talk about communication as a director, and if you're not good, but you can kind of type it out and then show your crew like this is visually kind of what I want the set to look like.
Yep.
I think that is where it's great use and like world building and the ideation behind it. So I totally get it. I love that about AI and where it's going.
Yeah, and we're in a tricky time because it's very polarizing right now. So I can understand why when you cover it, even when I post about it, they're like, "Oh, fuck
Yeah,
you, fuck
yeah, I'm
AI."
following you.
Yeah. Like
Come on,
it's
man.
we're in a very polarizing
It is
place right now in terms of AI. And I understand there's some, the ethics is to be questioned. All that aside, I think that those are conversations we have to have, like the ethical conversations
for
and
sure.
what it means to be, taking other people's work or replacing artists. All that is important. But in terms of an actual tool, for me as an artist, as someone that's not trained in a lot of these things, it allows me to do so much more. And essentially, it allows me to audition ideas at a much faster rate.
Was Black the most visually ambitious video you've done to date?
I would say so. It wasn't the biggest production. I think Neeye Oli was the biggest
Mm,
production, and it involved the most people. But I think, yeah, in terms of what I was trying to do and the amount of time it took, yeah, it was definitely the most visually ambitious. Well, because I was making these scenes, like these, grandiose scenes that would take up like 1 second.
yeah.
And I would work on it for like a day and a half. Oh my God. Like even when I was making it, I was like, what am I doing right now? I'm like, but then I'm like, you know what? Let me just explore this and get it out of my system. It's the same thing with water, money, power. I'm like, if I don't do this, I'm just gonna it's gonna
Yeah.
haunt me. So let me get it out of my system, essentially. So yeah, no, it's definitely the most ambitious visually.
Dope. Dope.
If y'all made it this far, you guys know what it is. I love you guys from the bottom of my heart.
Please share this video with anyone you think would enjoy it, and let's get to the breakdown.
I said, came for the money bag, stayed for the pussy gang, green from the bullet wounds, blood from my bully, bulletproof, black windows on a black Cadillac, black leather, black gloves, black metal, black mask, back in this bitch with a bag of new tricks, new kids on the block, boy bands coming in, bands coming all colors now, worldwide popping sideways, non-stopping when the beat come knocking like bang, 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 bang. Tell him I ain't home and I ain't never plan to enter it. We been going ape and staying loaded with banana clips. Wish a dummy wouldn't watch us turn them into mannequins. Put up to the disco, watching people started panicking. All we ever wanted was a shot at being heard instead of being shot at by the local news and all the cameramen. All we ever needed was each other for the come up on our stomach, always starving while we looking for some answers in. Trying to get any leg up on anybody, trying to come on body up before we get a chance to benefit. Oedipus, motherfucker really have no clue with who we messing with. Running amok and moving through zombies who dead already. They label us all as radicals, animals with machetes, but we don't move with no weapons. Of late is my mother tongue and the only language I'm speaking with pigs is burning apart.
Okay, was this shot mainly in studio, and then everything else was building on the on computer?
We only did one outside shot. Everything else was shot in studio.
Yeah, so like stuff like this.
This was just on the floor of the studio, and then in post, I just added, all the specs and the blood. Actually, yeah, and the wings.
And the wings too, because the wings
Yeah.
look so.
Yeah, so
It looks
this
so
is
real.
interesting because this is a great example of me using AI, and this is something that if I didn't have that access to it, I would have to hire, like a SFX
Wardrobe,
artist.
yeah, or
Yeah,
even wardrobe to do practicals
exactly,
for
to
it.
do wardrobe and do it practically. But here's the thing. When I was shooting the video, I didn't have the concept of what I wanted to do. I just know I wanted that angle. I just wanted this angle of the overhead angle and it like zooming out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, like what would make this look interesting is if like an angel had plummeted to the ground and then I'm rapping as an angel that had just fallen from the sky. This is one of the first images that I worked on. It's not that I had the whole world in my head already, but as I was kept making each scene, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I see what this is turning into. This is like a battle of like hell and heaven in purgatory, this chaos that has broken out in purgatory. But that was only something I realized towards the end of the video after I had made these scenes. So this was one of the first
Wow.
that inspired that. So it wasn't like I went into the video like initially and being like, hey, I got to create this world where
Oh,
heaven and hell
really?
collide. Yeah. And
That
like,
this was the ideation came in post for that
yeah, a
concept.
lot of the ideation came in post. And for me, the way that I like to work is knowing the type of movement and performance that I want. So I know that I wanted a certain type of movement. I wanted a certain type of like style in how I'm rapping, but I wasn't fully sure of what the world would look like, you know?
What? That's wild.
Yeah. So there was a lot of experimentation, and I think that's the thing we were talking about with AI. Is because of AI, I was afforded to like audition so many different styles that I could actually take this to. I made the first iteration of the wings with Midjourney like 7 months ago, and then Midjourney released an update, and then I just kept updating these wings as Midjourney kept.
God,
You know,
it looks amazing.
the thing I like to do with AI is have a more collaborative relationship as opposed to just like a prompt. So it wasn't like I put in an image of me on the floor and then I said add wings and then it just made these.
Yeah.
I put the image in, it would give me a whole bunch of iterations, and then say I would go through like, I don't know, 100 of them. Take that, put that into Photoshop. I would play with it, edit it, put that back into Midjourney. And then, it was like a back and forth thing until it finally got something that was sort of right. I'm like, okay, then I comp myself into that. So it was a very like back and forth and kind of tedious process.
Ah, dang. That's crazy. Just a question about wings, because made in Jaffna, there was like a
Yeah.
part where
Yeah,
you're
it's a reoccurring thing in my
yeah.
work.
Is
Yeah.
that for a reason, or is it just fits
I
with the visuals like as you're going along with it?
You know what? I think it's been like a unintentional kind of a theme within my work. I grew up as a Catholic, so I went to church a lot, and I was brought up religious, very religious household. And so, just the symbolism of the Bible and church, and I grew up with that. And unfortunately, in hindsight, I'm like, I don't know if that was necessarily a good experience. So I've always had this battle between my relationship with God and how, ironically, how the church has interfered with that more than helping me find God. That's always prevalent in my art, is like my conversation, I guess, with religion and God.
Just because we're talking about religious like symbols, the makeup
Oh yeah, that was I think
that
that's kind of like a consistent makeup, that backwash.
oh, okay.
Where yeah, it's part of like their aesthetic. The reason why we got backwash on this, it was like, man, it's just aesthetically something makes sense with y'all. And I'm like, I saw it. I'm like, yeah, I see it.
I love that. And that's what I was questioning it and I was looking at it. I was like, "Oh, this is actually really cool."
Yeah.
For this like centaur scene, is this a full body shot and like the lighting? Were you just extending like filling this frame out?
Yeah, the only thing practical in here is my face.
Is this your upper body or was it just like this?
No, you know what? It might have. I don't even think it was my upper body, dude.
It's literally
I,
just
I
this.
look,
Like,
yeah. Like, I
okay.
don't mind it. It's a jacked
Yeah,
body,
I was like, dang, this guy really just took his shirt off for this scene. Because if I was like that, every video I'd be, you know what I mean?
No, that was just like, again, this was an idea that I'm like, I like this lighting on my face, and I didn't quite know how to make it look cool in a wide shot. And then I've always had this idea. I'm like, yo, I just want to be a centaur in one video. I'm like, oh, this would be the perfect way to like incorporate it.
And then this, where was this recorded? Is it
This
like
was
hard
this was
green
green
screen?
screen.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this was green screen. So Backwash was fully green screened. And then I had the reference from the Victory video with Busta. And again, I made like a mock-up style, just a mock-up for Photoshop. And then once I got something that I liked, I fed that back into Midjourney a whole bunch of times. But this took a while for it to like get it right, because I had to go through so many versions where the the footage I had would still work, right, in
Yeah.
terms of proportions and lighting. So that was the challenge. I think because we have so little control over like the images that are made with AI, it's a bit difficult. I think that that'll change within like the next year. There's a lot of like fidgeting around and making sure. And the fun part about this video is that I wasn't too hung up on the technical things. I'm like, I wasn't
Yeah.
too hung up on if it was the perfect lighting match, or I was just like, is the vibe there? Like do you feel something? Like, does it look cool when you
Yeah.
look at it? Is the vibe? I'm like, yeah, the vibe is there. Like, because you can zoom into any one of these and you'll see a whole bunch of mistakes. I'm like, I don't care.
But
I'm
it's like
like,
the imperfections with it too. I feel
exactly.
like,
The whole
yeah.
the whole I think that's what made it so punk. Like, even the song, Latch's the producer of the song. His computer has crashed with the stems of the song on it. I'm like, fuck it. That's even more punk. We don't even have the stems. We don't even have everything was just so like, you get what you get. Like, we weren't trying to make this polished product
Yeah.
sonically or visually. We're just like, this is the element that you get. Yeah, okay, even if you go back to that gorilla stomp or whatever, I was like, what I wanted was a gorilla smashing a car, and for the likes of me, I couldn't get it, and all I can get is the gorilla, and then it looked like
Like
it was picking up another furry creature,
like a bear. It almost looks
bear.
like,
It looked
yeah.
like yeah, and then in my head, I'm like, oh, even the imperfection of AI is even cool for this. I'm like, this looks cool. I'm like, I don't know what's happening here, but
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not what I initially wanted. But then it kind of suits like this weird, surreal. You're in like a dream state of like, what is it? Is that a car or a bear, or is it another version of himself? I'm like, oh, and then I like that idea of like embracing these imperfections, because it's like a technological imperfection, but I'm like, oh, but this is dope because it aesthetically it fits what I'm going for.
It's cool because it's like imperfections, but because of how it flows,
Mhm.
and like no one ever thinks of the way of imperfections as it being fluid. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yes,
Imperfections are always
absolutely.
like a black or white. Like it's either right,
Absolutely.
but it is imperfect. But then there's like this morphing that happens where it's like
Yes,
it just kind of works.
it works. That's exactly it. And
Yeah.
and that's what I loved about experimenting with this and not taking everything so seriously. Because like, I think there's a part of me where I'm like,
I hope people don't watch this and think that I'm trying to be like some technical guru with this, because or like the way I want you to watch it is just like some dude that's just letting his imagination run free.
One of my favorite shots.
Me too. Love the shot.
Like even the way the wings flows with the face and like the contrast between the colors.
Yeah.
So is this just a regular overlay, or did you put this whole frame in AI and then just
No, this is an overlay. That dove might have been just like some stock footage that I found.
Yeah.
I manipulated it a whole bunch. But yeah, this is another scene where I'm like, how could I make this interesting, the side profile interesting? And for me, I'm like, oh, this would be cool when I'm rapping regular speed and you have this like slow motion dove, you know, kind of like warping time. This is like a juxtaposition of like time and lighting, right? It's like this really well lit dove, and I'm silhouetted in the back, and I'm rapping regular speed, and the dove is moving super slow.
Slow, yeah.
So kind of like it is a little bit jarring, but it still looks beautiful.
What the fuck is this scene? Missed on a machine to study it up, cause his pockets so clean. The body and the king, the X is art in the scene, but art is no scene, reflections are far in between. One verse, from the elite, part of the scheme is part of a larger belief. I feel like hard in
the red man, this the scene where they're buried.
Yeah.
The Red Man cover, the homage to the Red Man cover. The dirt we did do practically. And to be honest, you know, I was saying before, like me and Gudgeon just love doing these weird adventures. And in my head, I was like, yo, we can just go to like somewhere, because we shot this in Montreal. I'm like, why don't we just go to Montreal, dig up a grave? And I wanted to do it practically. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, I got to think about if other people actually want to be buried. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. But we did do, it was green screen, but we did do all the dirt. So we did get a whole bunch of dirt and put it around them.
Yeah.
So we could get the practical elements of the dirt.
Yeah. So for them, were they in a like, was it a box?
Yeah, it was like we just got like this, I guess cardboard, like thick cardboard, and then put a whole bunch of dirt on it.
And then they were sitting down.
Yeah, they were just sitting down.
Yeah. That's hilarious that you're like, yo, let's dig up a grave. And then
I was just like, you know why? Because I saw an interview with Redman and he did do that. I'm like, well, I can't pay homage to Redman and not dig it up.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, but I'm like, you know what, that's gonna be too much of a headache. But I loved how it turned out. Yeah, this was another scene where I just had a wide shot of them and I didn't know what to do. I'm like, how do I make this wide shot interesting? And then this might have been an accident, to be honest. I think I was playing with Photoshop's like AI, which is actually pretty terrible compared to like all the technology. You tried.
Yeah.
It's pretty terrible. Somehow it created this like sun, and then I'm like, oh, this is actually dope. And then I just finessed it to make it look good, but I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And then I just put a whole bunch of bats around it. Yeah, a lot of it is just me working backwards of like how to make the shot interesting.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily storyboard this.
Man, I even love Backwash's performance here. Their performance
is so good.
It was like the movement as well. And was there any directing on your part for them, or were they like, I know what to do, like I got it?
Yeah, I think Gudgeon gave them some
direction
in terms of movement, and Gudgeon is great at that. So like even when I'm directing, especially when I'm in the shot, I can't see it. But you know, Gudgeon is like a prolific photographer, so he's able to see like the way that the body should be positioned and how that transitions on camera, and he has a knack for that more than I do. So he's able to like give that direction of like, hey, keep your elbows out a little bit, but don't go past beyond this point. And sometimes, you know, like you might get like a pretty good performance, but then there's like 3 seconds of it that is like, oh, they're doing something with their body that just looks so cool.
Yeah.
And I think that was this moment where they're just taking this cool step.
Yeah,
like you have to hand out in that cool way.
It almost feels very zombie-ish, but also very Exorcist styles. Like there's like that movement and the
Right. Because sometimes when, you know, especially on a music video, like it takes a bit for you to get warmed up, and you might not hit it until like the middle of the verse. I'm like, oh, that's a sweet spot, and I think they hit it there. That horse on fire was like literally the last. I added that like 3 hours before I uploaded this. Something had dropped that morning, and I was like scrambling. I'm like, oh, this is good. I know already what I can do with this.
That's a crazy image.
Those are the type of things I'm just like, at the rate that it passes by, it looks realistic enough. But for me to like recreate that practically would be next to impossible.
Bro, you need the stunt person. You need, safety.
Pyro, yeah, exactly. Safety permits. I'm like, it's
Yeah, a
impossible.
horse, yeah. I know someone's gonna be like, yo, let's get a horse and light it on fire. You know what I mean? Because that's how you're thinking, right? In your
Yeah.
head, you're like, how can
Yeah.
we light a horse on fire? And you're like,
Yeah,
ah,
exactly.
well.
I'm like,
Uh,
that's what's so exciting. I'm just like, with the development of AI, I'm like, you would think people will be excited to do imagery that we could never before, do unless you had like $1 million budget.
For sure.
And now I would love to see creatives just really exploring and pushing the boundaries of what we can do with this.
And I think it's always just like comes back to that the budget and like where the money is for
Yeah,
the return of investment. Like it's not,
exactly.
but hopefully like stuff like this could really like bring it back.
This is an homage to Gaspar Noé, Enter the Void. I study Gaspar Noé a lot. Aside from being an incredible filmmaker, I love the attention to detail. I think that's what separates like a good director and a great filmmaker, is that a great filmmaker considers every single thing that appears on the screen as soon as you hit play. That goes from like the way that the logos are presented to like the credits to the end of the credits. Every single thing is considered, like the weight of the font. It's not just the story being told in the middle. It's like, how are you opening with this? How are the transitions? Every detail is important. And that's what I try to do, is like, don't overlook anything until the video is completely gone to black. It matters. Even with these scenes, I'm like, this took like maybe 2 days to figure out the right, iconography and everything for that, and like presenting it in a cool way that feels cohesive.
Yeah.
But that's that I just study like Gaspar Noé and Martin Scorsese. I saw this one clip of like Scorsese like fine tuning the weight of like the font of for the credits, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, do you see someone as prolific as Scorsese sitting down and knowing, how the weight of a font gives you a different feeling? And I'm like, yeah,
That's
that's
that's insane because it's like, and no one will think about that of him.
yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's what makes him so genius. He's like, nothing is overlooked. Yeah, I
Beautiful.
don't think enough people think about how fonts make you feel. They're always just looking at it, but like it might be, I don't know how to articulate it, but I know when I'm just scrolling through like beautiful design, I'm like, oh, like I feel a certain way. I already know what this is. You're looking at something expensive, but you don't know how to articulate it. You're like, this just looks expensive, or this looks like a certain way. And I'm like, every part of design is that it can make you feel a certain way, whether you're conscious of it or not.
That's all
That's
art.
what makes an artist art. Is like they're aware of it. They're aware that this could trigger an emotional reaction from you.
The way everything is put together, from the font to the fades to the lighting to the word like fashion though.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Dude, I appreciate it, man.
Oh man, I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you do, and highlighting artists and all these beautiful visual works, especially in a time where the way that we're consuming visuals is so rapid, and we're just gobbled by the algorithm and content creation, and you taking the time to like dissect visual work that people put a lot of time and effort into. And it makes me happy to know that there's like still people that like care about the details, care about the fine little things that we like slave over. So it makes me happy that you exist.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. And that's all I really want to do with this brand. Like, as much as I love the visuals, I wanted to be able to share it and then show people, like inspire people to do it.
Yeah.
I'll keep in touch, man. And
Yes.
anything you need, let me know.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, brother.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.